Hey there, curious minds! Welcome to another intellectual journey. Today, we're diving into a question that haunts our digital age, one you might have asked yourself without even realizing it. Ready to explore? Have you ever been watching a perfect sunset, enjoying a delicious meal, or in the middle of an amazing concert, and your first instinct was to pull out your phone? Not just to remember, but for something deeper. That impulse reveals a strange truth about our time. It seems we need digital proof, evidence. We need every instant to be content to make it feel like we truly lived it. The question is why? Why isn't a subjective, personal, and intimate experience enough for us anymore? The answer has deep roots in our psychology and the fabric of our current society. First, let's analyze our own minds. Human memory is incredibly fragile and, let's be honest, notoriously unreliable. We forget details, confuse events, and over time, even our most cherished memories fade. Psychologists studying memory have shown time and again that we don't recall the past like a video recording. Rather, we reconstruct it every time we evoke it, often altering it in the process. Faced with this imperfection in our biology, technology offers a tempting promise, the promise of a perfect, external, and incorruptible memory. A photograph or video doesn't degrade like a neural synapse. So by capturing a moment, we're not just taking a photo, we're externalizing our memory. We're delegating the task of remembering for us to a device with a fidelity our brain could never match. This creates a sense of security. The moment is safe. It's been anchored outside our fallible selves. It no longer depends on us to keep it alive. It now exists subjectively in a digital gallery. It's a form of miniature immortality. But here's where the problem begins. This externalization comes at a cost. By relying on the digital file, we might be weakening our ability to form rich, organic memories in the first place. Some studies suggest that when we know we're recording something, our brain puts less effort into processing and consolidating it into long-term memory. It's what's known as the cognitive offloading effect. It's as if our brain tells itself, I don't need to remember this, the picture will do it for me. And in that act of delegation, the experience is lived through a screen, not through our full senses. Now, the second reason is perhaps more powerful and has to do with our social nature. This is where sociology gives us a fundamental key to understanding this phenomenon. For a long time, sociologists like Erving Goffman taught us that social life is a kind of theater. We all play roles, and our identity is largely constructed through how others perceive us. In the digital age, that stage has expanded to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our audience is no longer just the people in front of us, but an invisible and potentially massive online audience. So, an experience that isn't shared, isn't seen, doesn't get a reaction, can feel incomplete. It's like a play without applause, a question without an answer. Did it really happen if no one else witnessed it? The like, the comment, the share. These aren't just trivial gestures. They are forms of social validation. They are confirmation from our digital tribe that our experience is real, valuable, and worth telling. We're looking for what psychologists call social proof. If others see it and approve of it, then our own perception of that moment solidifies. It becomes more real in our own mind because it has been ratified by the collective. This need to be seen leads us to curate our lives. We don't just live moments, we produce them. We think about the photo's angle, the filter, the caption. The moment stops being an end in itself. It becomes the raw material for something else. It transforms into content. And in that transformation, we run the risk of losing the raw, unedited essence of life itself, which rarely fits into a perfect square. Now let's delve into more philosophical territory. What is an experience? Traditionally, it was a subjective event, something that happened within us. It was a mix of sensations, emotions, and thoughts, but now we've added a new ingredient. That ingredient is documentation. The act of recording has merged with the act of living. They are no longer two separate things. The camera isn't just a witness, it has become an active participant in the experience. Think about it for a moment. When you know you're being recorded or when you yourself are recording, do you act the same way? Do you feel the same things? The answer is almost always no. The awareness of the camera changes everything. This is the observer effect applied to our own lives. In quantum physics, the simple act of observing a particle changes its behavior. Similarly, the act of documenting our lives changes the nature of that life. The moment becomes self-conscious. We are no longer simply being, but we are being for the camera. We are performing for our future selves or for our online audience. Authenticity becomes a performance. The experience becomes a product that must be aesthetically pleasing, that must fit into a personal narrative we are constructing. Life becomes a brand, our personal brand. Therefore, the need to create content isn't just to have a memory or to receive validation. It's a way to give our lives a narrative structure, order, and meaning that we often feel is missing in the chaos of daily existence. We build a digital self that is often an idealized version of us. A self that is happier, more adventurous, and more successful. And by documenting moments that fit that narrative, we make that idealized self feel more real. It's a form of self-persuasion. If I post enough smiling photos on the beach, maybe I can convince myself that I'm the kind of person who is perpetually happy and on vacation. This brings us to a crucial point, the paradox of all this effort. In our desperate attempt to capture life, to validate it, and to give it meaning, we might be achieving the exact opposite. By being so focused on documentation, we distance ourselves from the present moment. We become chroniclers of our own lives instead of protagonists. We're too busy being the cinematographers. The irony is that the experiences we most long to remember are those in which we are so immersed that the idea of pulling out a phone doesn't even cross our minds. They are moments of pure flow. Flow, a concept by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, describes that mental state where you are completely absorbed in an activity. Time distorts, the ego disappears, and the action feels effortless. It is in those moments of self-forgetfulness where life feels most real, most intense. And it is precisely those moments that are impossible to capture with a camera because the act of capturing them would destroy them. So what do? Technology isn't going away. And the desire to share and remember is profoundly human. It's not about demonizing our phones or social media, but about being more aware. It's about understanding the difference between capturing a moment and replacing a moment. We can use technology as a tool to augment our memory, not as a crutch for our experience. Perhaps the key lies in balance, in knowing when to put the phone away and simply be, in allowing a sunset to be just that, a sunset, something that exists in your imperfect and fragile memory, and for that very reason is more valuable. True life isn't found in a perfectly curated gallery. It's found in the messy, unphotogenic, unedited moments, in the laughs that were too sudden to record, and the conversations that were too deep to interrupt. In conclusion, the need to transform life into content stems from our struggle against imperfection, the imperfection of our memory, the need for social validation, and the desire to impose order on our chaotic existence. Thank you so much for joining me in this essential reflection. I hope it has given you a new perspective on how we interact with the world and our own memories. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention, but the conversation doesn't end here. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you often find yourself in this situation? Do you think we've lost the ability to enjoy the moment? Leave your theories in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss our next intellectual journey. Returning to memory, it's fascinating how we rely on an external object for something so intrinsically ours. Think about our grandparents' stories passed down orally. Their power lay precisely in their fluidity, in how they changed with each storyteller. Photography, by contrast, freezes a single version of the story. It gives us an anchor, yes, but it also takes away the freedom to remember in different, perhaps more emotional than literal ways. The memory becomes rigid, immutable. This phenomenon intensifies with video. Now we can relive a moment with apparent total fidelity. But are we reliving the experience, or are we simply watching a movie of ourselves acting in that experience? Sociologist Sherry Turkle talks about this. She suggests that we shift from sharing an experience to experiencing the share. The focus shifts from the event itself to the act of communicating it to others. The medium has become the message. This creates constant pressure to perform. Every outing, every meal, every trip becomes an opportunity to generate content. The question, "Did I enjoy this?" is replaced by, "Is this gram-worthy?" The underlying fear is that of invisibility. In a world saturated with information in other people's lives, not participating in the digital spectacle can feel like a form of non-existence. If you're not seen, are you really there? Here, existentialist philosophy has something to say. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre argued that our existence is defined by our actions and choices. But what happens when the primary action is documenting instead of doing? We become curators of a museum of our own lives. We spend more time tagging and exhibiting the pieces than creating new ones. The danger is ending up with an impressive exhibition of a life that wasn't fully lived. This impulse is also tied to the attention economy. Our attention is the most valuable resource, and digital platforms are designed to capture it. By creating content, we enter that game, competing for the attention of others. The dopamine we receive from a notification, from a like, is a real neurological reward. Our brain is hacked to associate documentation and posting with pleasure. It's a powerful and addictive feedback loop. This search for external validation can erode our internal compass. We start to value experiences not for the intrinsic joy they provide, but for the reaction we believe they will generate in others. Imagine this. You go to a beautiful place and take 10 photos. 9 are good, but 1 is perfect for social media. Years later, what will you remember? The place or the search for the perfect photo that validated your presence there? Memory anchors itself to the image, not the sensation. We remember how we looked in the moment, not how we felt. The digital avatar cannibalizes the real experience, replacing it with a more polished but empty version. It's not a criticism, but an observation of the modern human condition. We are navigating new territory where the boundary between the self and the representation of the self has become incredibly blurry. The solution isn't total disconnection, which is unrealistic for most. The solution is to cultivate intentionality, to actively ask ourselves, why am I pulling out my phone right this instant? Is it to preserve a genuine memory I fear forgetting? Or is it due to a social anxiety impulse, the need to prove I'm here, that I'm living an interesting life? Honesty in that answer is everything. We can practice what some call sacred moments, periods of time, short or long, during which we consciously decide not to document anything, to let the experience wash over us without the filter of a lens. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, almost as if the moment is being wasted. That discomfort is a sign of the dependency we've developed. Overcoming it is reclaiming a part of our experiential autonomy. Reclaiming our inner life, the one that doesn't need to be shown to be real, is perhaps one of the most radical acts of freedom in the 21st century. It's an act of faith in our own capacity to feel and remember. Life isn't a collection of perfect moments, it's a mosaic of instants. Some are brilliant, others dull, some broken. The beauty is in the whole, not in the individual pieces we choose to show. So the next time you feel that impulse, pause. Breathe, look with your own eyes. Listen with your own ears, feel with your own skin, and then, only after you've lived the moment for yourself, decide if it's worth sharing. The value of the moment isn't determined by its viral potential, but by its impact on your soul. And those impacts are what truly build a life far beyond what any digital file can contain. Let's remember that the word content has two meanings. It can be the information that fills a space, or it can be the state of being at peace and satisfied. Perhaps by focusing less on the former, we'll find more of the latter. Think about ancient art, cave paintings. They were a form of documentation, yes, but their purpose was communal, ritualistic, magical. It wasn't a status update. They told the story of the tribe, not the performance of the individual. We've privatized the narrative. Everyone is the hero of their own movie, and social media is our distribution channel. This can be empowering, but also isolating. It locks us in a self-promotion bubble. Collective memory fragments into millions of individual and curated memories. How do we build a shared history when we're all busy polishing our own? It's a crucial sociological question for our future. The pressure particularly affects young people whose identities are forming in this environment. They learn early on that life must be performative, that their value is tied to their visibility and digital approval. This can generate constant anxiety. The feeling that if you're not doing something Instagrammable, you're wasting your life. Leisure, boredom, simple contemplation become enemies to avoid. Boredom is, in fact, fundamental for creativity and introspection. It's in those moments of apparent emptiness that our mind wanders, connects ideas, and we find our own center. We've replaced it with an infinite stream of stimuli. Authenticity becomes an aesthetic, not a state of being. We seek the look of being authentic. The rustic cabin, the artisan coffee, the intentionally blurry photo. It's the commercialization of vulnerability itself. When we see others' perfect lives, we compare our behind the scenes with their highlight reel. It's an unfair comparison that, as numerous studies have shown, can have devastating effects on mental health. We know rationally that it's an illusion, but emotionally, it affects us. The social proof we mentioned earlier turns against us. If everyone else seems happy, and I'm not, there must be something wrong with me. The antidote is twofold. First, more conscious media consumption, always remembering the curated nature of what we see. Second, and more importantly, an active cultivation of our own internal validation. Internal validation is the ability to know that an experience was valuable without anyone else needing to confirm it. It's a quiet confidence in your own judgment and your own feelings. It's a superpower in the digital age. Building this confidence takes practice. It requires moments of solitude, of reflection. It requires a journal instead of a post. It requires a deep conversation with a friend instead of a live stream. It's not about living a secret life, but about having a private life. An inner space that is solely yours, that is not for sale, that does not need to be optimized for engagement. A secret garden in your mind. Because in the end, when all is said and done, we won't take the likes or the followers with us. We'll take the resonance of the moments in our memory. The texture of a hand, the taste of a meal, the sound of laughter, and the quality of those memories will depend on how present we were when they formed, not on how well we documented them. To live to tell the tale is one thing, But telling the tale to feel like we've lived it is a trap we must learn to disarm. So I invite you to try an experiment. Choose an activity this week. A walk, a coffee, a book, and let it be just yours. No photos, no posts. Just the experience and you. Observe how it feels. That small rebellion against the impulse to document can be the first step to rediscovering a deeper, more satisfying way of being in the world. A world infinitely richer than any newsfeed. In summary, our need to turn life into content is a complex symptom of our modernity. It's a mix of fragile memory, a longing for connection, social pressure, and a philosophical search for meaning in a digital world. Understanding these forces doesn't automatically free us from them, but it gives us the power to choose our response. It allows us to navigate this environment with greater wisdom and a deeper commitment to our own authentic life experience. At the end of the day, a life well lived is measured by the depth of its moments, not by the quantity of its evidence. The proof that you've lived isn't on your phone, it's in the marks the world has left on you and you on the world. I sincerely hope this exploration has been as fascinating for you as it has been for me. The goal isn't to give definitive answers, but to ask the right questions that help us all think more critically and deeply. True knowledge isn't a possession, it's a path. And I am honored that you allow me to walk a small part of that path with you, exploring together these mysteries of the human condition in the era we've been given. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that our life is the original work of art. The photo, the post, the video are just copies. And no copy, however perfect, can capture the value and texture of the original. Let's treasure the original. Let's nurture the original. Let's live the original. Because it's the only thing we truly have. And it is more than enough. Once again, I thank you immensely for your time and curiosity. It's a privilege to share this space with you. Thank you for being part of this community of inquiring minds. If this video has made you think, share it with someone you believe needs it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the great secrets of the mind and society. Until next time!